And welcome. I'm going to try to be a little bit more formulaic, but welcome to another Dumb Podcast. I'm Brad. For some of y'all who are going to be kind of new to the show, because Bob's supposedly going to tweet this out, so we'll see. But this was maybe I don't want to. Maybe I should have bigger dreams. I'm not sure, but this was a dream come true to have this conversation with Bob, and I could have had Bob on to talk Cowboys or talk whatever I wanted to. But I was truly proud of the conversation that me and Bob had. Uh, it got into, his adoption of his child, the new transition from 3 to 7, in the hard line. And then we went hard in on, kind of a politics thing. And it was not controversial. We never yelled at each other once. I kind of actually pushed back and disagreed, and we still had just a very amicable conversation, and I was so grateful for that. But I just can't thank Bob enough. I don't want to say I'm tearing up, but I really can't thank him enough for coming on. He didn't have to. He kind of had I would say a rough week from everything that's been going on, and I think this is probably one of the best things I've ever done, is to just have this conversation with Bob. I asked him beforehand. He was asking, how much time do you want? I said, if you can give me 30, I'll be good. If you give me 10, I'll take it, because Bob's a very busy guy, and I didn't want to take up any more of his time than I was. I just didn't want to be greedy, because I was just so happy to have Bob on. If I had 10 minutes, I'll fire out these questions, and he probably wouldn't allow me to get one because he's so long-winded. But and I said, if you give me an hour, it's perfect. Give me an hour, because I had things that I had a long list. I actually probably didn't get to everything that I wanted to talk about, but I still got through a lot of what I wanted to talk about. And we ended up doing an hour and a half. And I know a lot of people will go, oh, an hour and a half? Bob? And I would like to look back and see, has Bob ever done an interview that lasted an hour and a half? But it was just such a great, respectful conversation. Talked about religion, and it's just such an amazing man, and I'm lucky enough that he decided to come on this dumb podcast, and I'm internally grateful to Bob. So here we go. Here is the one and the only Bob Sturm. Joy. And follow. I should probably say this, but follow me at I am Brad C. Obviously, follow Bob at Sports Sturm. And and follow Another Dumb Podcast. Leave a review, and if you like this podcast, and if you're listening for just Bob Sturm, I just had Mark Follow on last week, and then before that I had Sam Gannon, the lovely Sam Gannon, and if you go all the way back, I had an incredible interview with the one and the only Grego. So if you're listening for Bob Sturm, you're gonna enjoy this, and then when you're done with that, go in the other archives, because I've actually had the privilege to have some incredible conversations with, I would like to call them heroes, but guys that I admired, or I've listened to on the radio and been like, oh my God. So I think this actually went a lot better than some of the other ones, because I've been quite nervous in most of them, and this one I kind of shook the nerves and was like, let's get this thing going. So without any further ado, here is Bob Sturm. This is the Bob Sturm Show.
Hey, man.
Hey, Bob.
What's up?
How's it going?
Oh, we're good. We're good.
Bacon's nice and crispy?
I think it's going to be pretty solid in the end, but it's now out of my hands.
Are you like an oven or like stovetop?
Oh, we did oven today.
Okay.
We generally do oven, yeah.
Okay. My dad does oven, and, they're all right. But
Yeah, well, I don't get too involved in how we do it. I just let her tell me what to do on this front. So
Good man. All right, Bob. Well, I first want to talk. I first wanted to jump off on where my fandom came from, and it's not so much your sports your sports knowledge. Um, I believe it's 9 years ago. I can only say this because it was around when I got married. But
Uh-huh.
you were in. Were you in Honduras or were you in Guatemala for the
I
adoption?
went to I went to both, but the adoption was Honduras.
Okay, well, okay, it is kind of confusing.
Yeah,
Justin is from
Honduras.
Honduras, but you went to Guatemala.
The mission trips were Guatemala.
Okay. Maybe I'm confused on it, but
No.
no, but whenever you did that and you went on your mission trips and then eventually did the adoption, I was kind of like, wow. And you did the adoption in a very I don't want to say a strange time, but you did it right in the middle of football season.
Right.
And I remember going, wow, he just packed up and left and is going to adopt this child in Honduras and right in the middle of football season. I'm like, okay, so maybe there's more important things out in the world. And whenever you did that, I was kind of like, wow, he's a. I'm not trying to like suck up to you, but
No.
I mean, you were very. I was like, oh, he's like a very superior being here, and just drop. I know you don't believe that, but that's just how I felt about it.
Good. No. Thank you. It's just you can't. Unfortunately, you don't have much say on when papers come in, and then you got to mobilize, I guess. And it's way more important than a dumb Cowboys game or three. So I absolutely love what I've fallen into in life, but yeah, you gotta make priorities sometimes. So no, but I appreciate you saying that.
Well, what I was trying to, I would actually like to know how that process started and
Sure.
When exactly did you and Sally decide that you were going to adopt a child from Honduras, and how far out did you have to go?
Yeah. Well, usually, I think husbands and wives throw things out there all the time. Like
right.
I've pitched my wife on living in Hawaii several times, and she thinks that's dumb because nobody would ever be able to see us. Our kids would be far away, and so if I want to retire by an ocean, I guess Hawaii is off the table. It appears, and that's a bummer.
Yeah, it is.
But those are just the throw it against the wall and see if it sticks conversations that I think married couples probably have. When they're bored, and my wife would throw out adoption from time to time before we had our biological kids, and she, I think, I guess she just thought the premise of helping a child in need was appealing to her, and I probably at the time was too busy thinking about football or something, and so we started having our own biological kids, and we got to two, which was the magic number, a girl and a boy, and then Bob goes and gets his vasectomy, and that will be that, and so from there it just I just started talking to and I always call this my life's epiphany, if you will, where you just sort of come to grips with the idea that something, an idea is in your head, and those of us who are religious might say God put an idea in our head, others might just say it popped in, whatever, but an idea or a thought was in my head that, and I also think a lot of people end up on this road where it's just kind of, there must be more to life than this, because this is fine, but it doesn't really feel meaningful or anything like that. And so that put me on a path of, I guess, looking for something. And in this case, it ended up being, at church, talked to some dudes on a mission trip Sunday week. If you've ever attended a church, that usually, I guess it's customary about once a year to give anybody with a missionary or an outreach a chance to like set up tables in the lobby and appeal to people to maybe contribute or join or something like that. And so that Sunday, I remember kind of looking around and looking at tables for countries all over the world, and you can go on 2-week trips to Kenya or a 10-day trip to Russia. I just didn't have that kind of time. And so one table was for Guatemala, and the appeal there was it's a 4.5-day trip. You leave on Wednesday night after the show, and you're back Sunday morning before kickoff. And I thought, okay, well, I'm only talking about taking 2 days off work. I bet you I can get that by. And so they said, well, listen, if you go, it will change your life. And I always tell people that that was not an overstatement. It absolutely did change my life. I needed to leave the cocoon of, affluent America and find out what poverty really means. And that's a bit of a minefield if you try to say someone's poverty is better than others. But I do think if you ever meet people who literally live in a junkyard, then you will see that there are different levels of poverty.
It's all about perspective.
And if you visit a third world country, and if you find out what the living conditions are for most, and if you just see, it opens your eyes to a great big world out there. And that's why I honestly think travel is so important for people, to just leave your reality and find out that what you see every day is just not what the world sees. So anyway, went on a mission trip, visited orphanages, brought shoes, played sports, bought pizza, hung out, had a great time. And then we'd go back the next year, and then the next year. And then we went to every 6 months. And then one time we said, hey, let's bring our wives. And, it's a group of like 6 of us men from up here in the Coppell, Louisville area. And we brought our wives. And naturally, wives in orphanages,
that's
definitely put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah.
That in some cases maybe we could do more. Maybe bringing shoes for 4 days every 6 months isn't quite what we are capable of. Maybe we're capable of much more. And for our particular family, I think we were the only family in the group that came to this conclusion. But for our particular family, we said, you know what, let's adopt, because there's a lot of people that adopt because they can't have biological children of their own, and that's totally fine. But we kind of were led to do it just because we've been blessed with so much, and it just seemed obvious that changing somebody's life and making them part of our family would be an unreal experience for us, and kind of honestly a spiritual reflection of what the Bible is. If you believe in salvation, then that's kind of an adoption. And so it was definitely bigger than Tony Romo or what we do. But my career opened all these doors for me, and so as I was looking for a bigger meaning or a more important calling, I'm always comparing myself, I guess, to my brother, who is a Army chaplain and full-time preacher, and that's not me. I'm not a preacher. I don't know. It's not my cup of tea at all. I really love what I do, and I don't have any regrets about that. But I did wonder, was I making much of a difference in my part of the world? And honestly, through that experience, not only adding a awesome kid to our family, but also all the people that have come up to me at different times since then and said, hey, you got me and my wife to think about, international adoption or just domestic adoption or whatever.
Yeah.
And if half of those stories are true, then I guess that's what it's all about then,
Yeah, I think that's amazing. And again, most that do the adoptions have already are kind of, I don't want to say barren, that's the wrong word, but not able to have their own children and
right.
Do that. And I was like, thinking to myself, I'm going, well, I have 2 children right now, and it's pretty it's pretty hard. And for you to go, hey guys, guess what? We're gonna add one more, and I mean, he's going to be from, it's not even from the United States. He's from an entirely different country. He I guess he took a while to learn how to speak English here.
Yeah, he didn't know a word of English.
Gosh.
In fact,
yeah.
his Spanish was not great either. Because he'd never
okay,
been to
well,
school,
yeah,
so,
okay, yeah.
So he was 4 and obviously uneducated.
Okay, he was 4. Okay.
And had lived in 4 or 5 different places, including a giant orphanage, and so he, you know, he's the sweetest kid I know. I swear to you. A lot of people who adopt inherit real massive issues, and we have the kid with the biggest heart, and obviously, you know, you're not shopping. In fact, my wife and I told the adoption people that, you know, we are going to say yes to the first child you present to us, and we're willing to, we're willing to take on whatever that means. And then just leave it in your hands and God's hands. And so Justin, who in fact is having his 14th birthday today.
Oh my God! I was just doing the math, and I was like, "Oh my God, he's like a teenager! Wow, that's amazing."
Yeah. No, he's got braces. His voice is changing. It's kind of hilarious. But yeah, he turns 14 today. And
happy birthday, Justin! That's awesome. That's incredible.
No doubt. And he's an incredible kid, and we're blessed to have him. And he's the first. I believe he's the first U.S. adoption from Honduras. At least that's how Buckner wrote it up. So I don't know if Buckner meant through them or if they just meant period. But I do know. Honduras international adoptions to the U.S. are a very new thing.
Okay. Yeah.
We were, I think, the first family to do it, maybe in the States. So I guess he's a bit of a history maker from that odd statistic, I suppose.
Yeah. Wow. That's just incredible, Bob. And I mean, obviously, again, I was a huge, you're one of the guys on Twitter who I have a Twitter argument, and I'll throw your tweet at somebody and go, look, this. I mean, but it's not always about sports, and it's not. So you can be great at sports and be a horrible person, and I'll be like, well, I kind of feel conflicted with this one. I was like, Bob's great at sports, and he's also a great person, so.
Well, thank you for that. But I will say this: I argue for a living, and honestly, I do often wonder about how active I am on Twitter, because I realize there's no better way to give someone the impression that you're an unpleasant human than disagreeing with them. And obviously, if you look at my Twitter feed, I disagree for a living, because honestly, in football or in sports, and heck, now I'm finding in society, there's no shortage of opinions, and there's no shortage of, things you feel like you should stand up for. And whether that's Dak Prescott or whether that's, social injustice or anything in between, when you disagree, you make a lot of people mad, and honestly, that's not a real Christian thing to do, probably. So I'm a little conflicted that I disagree for a living.
Are you disagreeing? Are you disagreeing with me that I think you're a good person? That's amazing.
Well,
wow.
Thank you. I realize I'm extremely, I'm extremely flawed, and I do wonder if I should retire from Twitter. But it's fun to interact with people too. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm quite conflicted as well, because I'm not the most liked person there. So, but I don't know
if it's healthy. I don't know if social media is healthy for any of us. But
yeah, well, you've had quite a week, but I would like to say, how is the? I guess now I was kind of catching up. I've had a kind of a wild week, but I was catching up on the hard line and 3 to 7. And I guess we've decided now it is going to be still the hard line, correct? Did I miss?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I mean, no, you didn't miss anything.
Okay, well, no, I was like, okay, are they going? Y'all were kind of swaying. I'm like, do we agree on it?
Well, it's obviously a bit of a process, if I may coin a term from but
yeah,
when I joined their show, I want to say that it was a big deal for a lot of reasons for a lot of people. There were other people that wanted the gig. There were certainly a lot of people that were sad that Mike left us, and frankly, I had mixed emotions about how smart it was to leave a show that was really good and friends that I really feel strongly about, and kind of start all over again. And so one of the things there, first of all, was Corby and Danny feeling good about who they had to the show. And I don't know that it was completely their call, but I also wouldn't have done it if they weren't on board. I wouldn't, I just look, if you guys are against me joining that show, then I don't really care what management thinks. I think it would be dumb for us to start already on the bad foot that you guys don't believe in this. And so one of my thoughts early on was to be really respectful of their feelings about, the 2 decades they were on that show, the good, the whatever. I mean, if they so the biggest element of that is the hard line. Honestly, is Mike and Greg. Everybody knows it, and it was an unbelievable show. That's not to say further machinations of whatever we call the hard line aren't also good, but they're not. They're never going to be the original. And heck, sometimes the hardline name would fit better with them because they took great joy in being abrasive and having great conflicts, and that's not everybody's personality. Anyway, before I ramble too much about that, I would just say one of the early thoughts from Corby and Danny were that they kind of wanted to call it something different and kind of start over and kind of break. I think Mike might have even suggested they do it. Just do your own thing and don't try to, don't try to be a cover band or anything like that. And I honestly sat back and my head was spinning over so many things, including just the complete lifestyle change of, asking my family to understand I won't be at dinner very much and just all those things. And I just said, if you guys don't want to call it the hard line, if you guys don't want to use the music and you don't want to carry over the benchmarks, then let's not. That's fine. The other option is let's give it time and let's see how we feel in 90 days or let's wait a quarter and let's call it something really basic like 3 to 7. Let's not spend a lot of time in imaging and all that sort of stuff, because if you're part of creating a radio show, you eventually find out that the name has almost nothing to do with anything important. It's just a name, and it's really not that big a deal. But to the people on the outside, especially in this case, the name, the hard line, the tradition, the institution, whatever you want to say, from 1994 till 2020 is a big deal, and so we can call it something else, but it seems to me, by June, once you get through COVID, once you get through, unemployment and no drive time.
Does it really matter?
Honestly, yeah. Once you go through 100 days, you look back at February 10th or even January 1st, when Mike told those guys he wasn't coming back, we see none of this really matters, and everyone's dealing with other things. And so basically, I pitched it about 3 weeks ago. I just said, hey, I kind of think if you guys are comfortable, we should just keep it the hard line, and we can change whatever we want. But a lot of people find comfort in what we've been doing for so long, and so I want to continue to be respectful. If you guys are just dead set against it, let's not do it. But if you are asking me to weigh in now that we've been together this long, here's my take. I think we should just keep calling it the hard line and go from there. And Corby and Danny were both immediately on board, and I love some of the stuff they do. Like, I had never been part of the trifecta. I think that's great. I learned so much about dudes I knew almost nothing about, because people that die are usually really old, and so I even somebody like Pat Dye or Johnny Majors and stuff from when I was young, and I just thought, oh, they're old coaches, I don't care about that. I learn every day, and when musicians. So I love this experience. I obviously love being on Noon to 3, and yeah, now we're called the hard line. So there was a really simple question. For you.
Someone just tweeted me and says, "I dare you to ask Bob nothing but 3-minute long questions," but I'm not going to do that.
Bring it on. I can. I've asked and heard longer.
Yeah, I know. Well,
can't rattle me.
Well, what I think of this new adventure that you're going through, getting with the hard line, is I think it's at least I hope it is. I mean, I'm not saying that you were ever not invigorated, but maybe this invigorated you more. You're like, whoa, this is a challenge. This is something new. And now we've got some. It's something you're growing now. Whereas what you had with Dan was just a well-oiled machine, and everything was just you could just pop in there. I'm not saying that you did, but I'm just saying you could pop in there and just everything be so solid.
I'll say I did.
Okay.
Okay. Let me disagree with.
There we go.
And blow the whistle on myself and just say, I absolutely was able to autopilot the radio show for several years, and I don't think it was perceivable, because my version of autopilot is still working my tail off. But there's no question, after 5,000 shows, you really don't have to prepare at the same rate.
Right.
And so, did I work less? No. I just funneled my work to probably my other avenues, like The Athletic and Fox. And now it all helps the show because it's all NFL. And even this morning, I'm working on the AFC East before you called, on all the ins and outs for each team in the AFC East. I mean, that's just my life.
Yeah.
And I love it, and it's just what I do. And so, that's another thing on Twitter that, some people don't understand or don't care about, which is, we both have opinions about football, and I'm just trying to explain to them, I totally get it, but I'm literally working on this stuff 60 hours a week, even in the off season. And therefore, hopefully, you can appreciate I have a different opinion that's coming from an awful lot of work. It's it's the old thing where if you walked into a kitchen at a restaurant and said, here's how I do burgers at home, I think the chef would probably think you're insane.
Yeah.
But look, that's neither here nor there. But Dan and Corby are very similar in many ways, and so are. That's what's so great about this place is you don't get to the ticket and you don't last at the ticket unless you are extremely talented. And that's, sometimes lost on, I think, part of the audience, because there is a part of the audience that loves us, and part of loving us is being super critical of just about everything they hear. And that's life. I mean, we do it with the Cowboys and or the Mavericks, and we love those teams, and yet all you hear us do is criticize them. So we get it. That's the society we live in. But it was really interesting leaving Dan and joining Corby from the standpoint of realizing that if a bunch of talented guys are super dedicated to the craft and humble enough to want to make something work, it's going to work if it's these guys. You could put George and Dan together. You could put Craig and I together. You could put Corby and Donovan together. I mean, you could mix it up, I think, any way you want, and you would still have some pretty good shows because everyone is really obsessed with what we do, and also really obsessed with keeping the ticket going for as long as it possibly can, because we all have the symbol tattooed on our hearts. This place has been so good to us, and the listeners have been so good to us, and the city's been so anyway, long story longer, I would say the thing about going to 3 to 7 that was weird was trying to replace like the biggest personality in Dallas radio history, maybe. Mike Reiner is a freaking legend, and obviously I'm not capable of replacing him. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to create a show where it's different, but it's the same. It's not trying to be Mike, because no one can, but trying to be yourself in an elevated spot. And then the real mind screw of it all was realizing how many people were hearing me for the very first time. I had no idea, man. I thought if I work from 1998 until 2020 at a place, even if it's noon to 3, everybody's going to be familiar with me, so the audience will know what I'm all about. Yeah. Then I got there, and it was shocking how many people. Now, probably not the majority, but enough to kind of shock me that people still knew me as like the hockey guy from Wisconsin or one of those Yankees that's on middays. And there were so many people that never listened to the station between drive time because I guess they're going to work. And
I was going to tell you, I was years ago when it's kind of a bit of a roller coaster for my listenership, I guess. But there was a time where you'd work during the day, and
right.
I would work actually like really early in the morning, and we would get off at 3, and sometimes we would have longer drives, and we'd get done at 3. So we would start at Why Today Doesn't Suck. And so I would hear you and Dan, but really I only knew Corby and Reiner. Right. So when I heard this, I was like, oh, I totally understand this part, because I didn't listen to 12 to 3. And I was like, I know of Bob, but I don't really know Bob. And then, that's what I can relate to those people.
Yeah, and the perception is completely painted by what those other shows say about you guys. So I guess they thought just Dan and I would just argue about it more on Dog all day from noon to 3, and they were like, because the Musers goofing on us, the Hardline goofing on us, and it's all fun. But if that's all you ever heard about us, is you would think Dan is a complete moron who doesn't know anything about anything, and Bob is this argumentative know-it-all, which is, I guess, they're founded in truth on some level. But it was really interesting. So there's a Texas pride element to our audience, of course, that they want to know that Mike was raised in Oak Cliff and this carpetbagger is, I don't know that that's a huge part of their audience, but it's out there. And there's a native Texan thing, and this guy is a Packer guy or something, so there, look, our audience is very diverse and very loyal, though. And I love that. And their loyalty was to Mike and Greg, and then to Mike and Corby. And so I have to earn that back. And I hope I ultimately will. And I think we're on a good path. It's weird because everyone got a kick out of me pointing out that there's actually the occasional good thing about racism in sports. And and so that got clipped out of context, but I actually do think there are some positives to it, including the fact that those who are not racist usually win because they are willing to, welcome in better players. Well, I would also say in this case, there is a good thing about COVID-19 and the shutdown is that if you are starting a new radio show right before it, you can actually get about 2 or 3 months of reps in before the massive part of your audience returns, and you worked out quite a few of the kinks. So when sports comes back and sports fans are looking for sports radio, which that's a part of our pie. I think the P1s have been with us all the way through the spring, and I love that. But the sports fan of Dallas, who is also doing a million other things in their life, and if there's no sports, they don't feel the need for sports radio. I mean, that makes sense. They're going to come back, and hopefully they'll hear a show that sounds like it had a full training camp. And Corby and I have definitely had that, and I feel like the show is way better already than it was in February, and I think in February it was pretty good. So, I'm very happy with where we're at, and I hope a big part of the audience is too. I'm never going to be Mike. Corby's never going to be Greg, but I do think we got a good show going, and it's only going to get better.
Yeah, I mean, well. Funny, I'm having back-to-back weeks of great guests. I actually had Follow-All on last week, but
cool.
Yeah. See, I'm not just I made it I made an analogy of wrestling, where he was talking about how everyone kind of in the station, kind of will George will go on y'all's show when like from noon to 3, and give you some like I'm going to give you some clout, I guess, but
Sure.
Everyone's putting each other over, and I think that's what's really great about that station is everyone is pumping each other up and putting each other over, and I think that's what makes it quite strong. Where
I think you can try to fake that, but
yes.
I think over the course of time, people can sniff out if it's real or fake. If the bosses are making us like each other, or if we're really just a bunch of friends. And obviously I was the new guy. And so if those guys, and I put Mike near the top of the list, if Mike and George and Craig and all those guys weren't receptive to me in my early years, maybe Rocco happens again or something like that. So they were super great to me. And now I feel responsible with the guys who came after me, like Jake and Donovan, to pass it forward. And it's not hard because they're great dudes. And so I believe in locker room culture. I believe that you set the tone, and then people who come into the locker room realize this is how it works here.
That's even a better analogy.
It's not like that everywhere. In fact, I promise it's not like that even at the other stations that try to do what we do in this town. And because it's natural to worry about yourself first and foremost, and the ticket has this team thing that's been here forever, and so you're still worried about yourself. You still have mouths to feed, but you learn immediately that you're on the team, and that comes with some responsibility.
Well, it's again going into business for yourself instead of helping the other guys out, and then you don't realize how stronger it makes your station. So I think it's pretty damn important, and I think that's what's contributed to the success of the station. So I think so too, and I also think that's had a huge amount of reason why Dan and I at the end didn't have the guts to go anywhere else, is because we knew we would never be able to recreate that, and that to us was valuable and worth thinking about. When you're looking at just dollar signs and you realize, well, I have a lot more money, but I won't be part of a team. I won't reap the benefits of a strong lineup all day. It will be up to us to sort of pull everyone else along. And,
it seemed dumb to leave a team this strong.
I was just about to say I didn't even remember to even talk about this, but I was actually there that summer bash that year.
Oh, okay.
I was there,
Yeah.
and I
Oh,
didn't.
okay.
I had no idea what was transpiring that day.
Yeah.
But I guess I woke up that next morning going, "What the hell's going on?" And then that whole
Sure.
weekend was kind of a weird one, probably mostly for you. But
I'll never forget it. In fact, I think I'm sitting in the same chair of many of those traumatic moments that weekend out here on my back patio, and um, I don't like to go back there very often, but it also, I mean, it's one of those forks in the road in your life where you realize that you got to get this decision right, and don't always take the bigger check, and then make decisions for the right reasons. So I learned a lot that day. Learned a ton, and
yeah. So you still, I mean, I guess
think
no regrets. I mean, you don't have. I mean,
oh no, no,
yeah.
no, no,
I
no.
mean,
Look, there are times where you feel like your bosses are challenging you,
right.
and doggone it, I'm not going to take it anymore, and I'm going to show them. And it's funny. You can even be a Christian who believes in the Bible and looks there for wisdom, but so often I actually think about like Empire Strikes Back and Yoda telling stuff to Luke about anger, and that's not in the Bible, but Yoda's teachings are very meaningful to me, and conflicts like that, where you realize that your emotions can make you make decisions you'll always regret, and if you can't control, the ego, when the bosses are challenging you, like they're calling your bluff. Okay. Now,
Yeah.
do you want to prove to them that you aren't bluffing? And in doing so, maybe step on a landmine for the next 10 years for your family? Or do you want to humble yourself and run up the white flag temporarily, and knowing that you're going to let them win, but in doing so, you're making the right decision for the next 2 decades, and who cares? And that's the thing you always try to teach your kids, right? The long-term effects of decisions are way more important than how you're going to feel when you hang up the phone on somebody and feel like you won, because in 3 days that high is going to be long gone, and now you got to live with it.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
these are life lessons that Master Yoda tried to teach us.
Well, I actually asked. I was at Ticket Stock this last year, and they were doing the Q&A or whatever that was, and
Yeah.
I was actually wildly annoyed by the other questions being asked. It was a lot of bits, and I'm like, okay, y'all have these guys. I mean, our phones have been taken away. Like, let's get into something. And I had that question to Dan, and he told me the entire story. And I was kind of like, I felt like I knew a little bit of it, but I didn't know. There was a lot I didn't know about it, so it was kind of shocking. I was kind of like, oh, I don't know if I'm not trying to be a jerk, but I was like, I don't know if I respect them more or less after that, because they took that deal, but also they had the wherewithal to be like, yeah, we're not going to be able to replicate this in another station, and maybe you could, maybe you couldn't, but
I doubt it.
Yeah,
though.
you doubt it. Yeah, okay, yeah. Okay.
Odds were very unlikely that you can. I mean, heck, how many times do we see in sports that somebody gets hired because they built a dynasty? So they get hired in the next place, and they're never going to be able to make that again. Everybody knows it, but the second place acts surprised that they couldn't. He couldn't rebuild. This thing that required a ton of luck and a ton of help from other people. But you know what? Dan and I going through that together, and going through all that we've gone through together, I don't think there's any way that there would be any other person that can approach the friendship Dan and I will always have, and that's some of the things that get reported or speculated about it, and are Bob and Dan mad at each other? Heck, I remember the time when that whole fan thing came along. It was actually reported, I think, in like 2 publications, if they were actually publishing anything. Was that the ticket matched the fans' offer?
Well, that's why I was shocked. I did read that. So I was like, okay.
It's insane. The ticket gave us a pay cut.
Yeah, I know that. Okay, for some people who don't know, Bob and Dan rejected the offer from the fan and came back to the ticket, and then they were like, "Well, we're going to give you this." And I'm like, "That's lower," but okay.
Yeah. No. The fan was definitely going to help pay for our kids' college in a big way, and the ticket offered us a pay cut. And we took it. Now we didn't need that advertised 8 years ago, because who cares? But at the time, it was pretty funny that the ticket was actually getting credit for stepping up and keeping their guys. And the big bosses were laughing at us, because they knew that it was just about us not having the guts to cross the street on them and sit out for 6 months, which is also part of this industry where they can make you not make a living for 6 months somehow, which doesn't seem legal, but amazingly it is.
That's just some old timey things where they.
It definitely
it's so old timey where they no one's gonna remember you in 6 months, and I'm like, come on.
There are parts of the country where they're like, dude, that is illegal, and you can win that in court. Oh, you're in Texas? You probably can't win that in court.
You're just gonna have to sit this one out, bud. All right. Well, all right.
Hey guys, just wanted to take a quick second and tell you about Anchor. And you're like, what? I don't want an Anchor. No, this is the website Anchor. Anchor.fm. That is how you're listening to this podcast. I wanted to start a podcast a few months ago, and a friend told me, hey, go try Anchor. And I looked at it and I said, wow, this is easy. You just got to download the information or download the audio file. Boom, you're in there. You can even record it all on your phone. I do it a little more professional-like, but you could just easily just talk into your phone and it records fine. But then it also puts you on iTunes, does all the fun stuff, not the fun stuff. I mean the hard stuff. But that's the hardest part, and Anchor does all it for you. I'm on iTunes. I'm on Spotify. I would say years ago or months ago, that would have been quite a task to individually go and find, get on Stitcher. Well, now Anchor does it for me. So just wanted to let you know, download the free Anchor app now or go to anchor.fm to get started. Thank you. And back to the podcast.
How much more time you got, Bob? I'm sorry.
Oh, I don't know. I don't even know what time it is.
Well, we've got 42, so can we just hit that hour and we'll be good?
Sure. Yeah, man.
Thank you so much, Bob.
No worries.
Okay. I was going to look at my notes here. I got a few here. How many jobs do you have right now?
3. I'm down from 5.
Down from 5?
Yeah, I had
where
5.
were you at 5?
Okay, so 2016
Stars,
and 2017, I had 5. I had the Stars. I did FC Dallas games, about 20 a year. So that's not totally a job, except on the weeks you have games, and then it's a lot of work. And then I had these 3. I guess the Athletic was actually the morning news at that time. So I would write about the Cowboys year round. I would do the ticket show. I would Troy hired me in 2016, and then the Stars hired me in 2015, and FC Dallas hired me like in 2003. So it was once the Troy stuff started, then I definitely felt that I was now officially out of free time, and it actually sort of it actually sort of explains my golf, and I even see occasionally people will say how I've changed And it's, listen,
Ugh, hate that.
Most of the people that take runs at me, it comes back to, if you're psychotic enough to care why someone hates you, who you've never met, then you can just usually go through like their social media feed, and within about 3 scrolls, you can find, okay, well, this person really is against like my opinion about an important topic of the day. Obviously, this week, I can definitely assume in most cases it's politics. Other weeks, it's clearly this person doesn't think Dak is good, or whatever. So I'm smart enough now. I've had enough people really say mean things about me, and sometimes even my family, to understand how it usually works. And that's very helpful, by the way, because if you've never been in the public eye and somebody irrationally hates you and just says ugly things about you, it can really screw you up mentally. So there's an education process about that that's actually quite helpful. So anyway, not to divert from the topic too much, but one of the things used against me is that I clearly now have a golf addiction, because I guess that makes me a rich person.
You're not golfing this morning.
I'm not golfing this morning. I don't golf on Saturdays because I detest 5-hour rounds. So I like to golf when nobody else is,
right.
which is
held
hard to
up
do,
on Saturdays. Yeah.
Yes, you gotta figure out how to do it, and I will assure anybody. Yes, I have certainly been blessed with 3 very solid paying jobs, and so I probably would have to admit a fluency. But I would also say I'm a massive golf cheapskate. So don't think for a second that I'm spending like more than $30 a round. So if you think a guy playing golf makes him rich, then you should see where I play.
I was going to ask that. I'm like, you haven't joined like a highfalutin, golf club or anything, or
I play at Grapevine Municipal. And that is one of the best value courses in the Metroplex, and I think you can play easily for $30. Now, if you want to play Saturday morning, maybe it's 50. I don't know. Oh, yeah. But I don't play Saturday morning because I don't like people on the golf course. I like empty golf courses, so I can play in 2 hours and listen to the musers and be back home before 9:30 in the morning, which is another psychotic thing. Anyway, that has to do with my jobs, Brad, because I am obsessive compulsive enough to record things such as body weight. For instance, I could tell you what I weighed probably every month for the last 20 years. It's dumb. It's vain, but I can do it. I can tell you about a number of things, including how many rounds of golf I've played per year. And when I had 5 jobs, the number got down to single digits. And not that I ever played much before that, but I realized I really, really love this. And I really have the resources to do it. But I don't have any time. And my friend Dan, who we had the exact same contract for the entire time we worked at the ticket, I mean, right down to the penny, Dan has lots of time for non-radio things in his life. He chooses to coach softball. He chooses to chop wood or whatever he does, but he has lots of time. So why have I taken on 4 jobs that I don't need? And Dan would always say, because you're Bob, and he's probably right. So anyway, that when Troy hired me, it was quite a surprise. And at the time, it wasn't for much money, but within 2 years of making his research dreams come true, he had Fox hire me, and I got a massive raise from very, very little to if somebody wanted to just live on that, it would probably be possible because Fox has great resources. And at that time, once that happened financially, because I actually said to him, I have to quit because the Stars pay me, much, much more than I make with you. And please don't take offense, but both of them take up a ton of my time. And I just have to choose the one that helps my daughter get her college tuition faster. And he's Troy, so he can do anything he wants. And he said, "Well, what do the Stars pay you?" So I said, "Okay, well, here's what they pay me." And he said, "Well, what if I just get Fox to pay you that? Would you not do hockey and keep doing what I need you to do in football season?" I'm like, "Dude, you can do that?" He's like, "Let me try," and he did.
I'm Troy.
Yeah, he's Troy. I probably shouldn't underestimate him, but yeah, he actually got me a raise off what the Dallas Stars were paying me, and the Stars, were great to me, but it was, I had to get home, change into a suit, and drive downtown as fast as I could, and spend the next 6 hours in a suit all night for 82 hockey games, and so that's not easy with 3 kids and a wife as well. So. Everything I do for Troy, I can do at my kitchen table or in my office, and I'm home. And now all of those funds were replaced. So I told my wife, if I keep doing this for Aikman, and I keep writing for the Morning News and then the Athletic, I will get out of the live sports game, unless something crazy comes along, like if the Stars wanted me to do play-by-play, and that almost happened once upon a time or twice upon a time, but it didn't happen. And so now I am merely 3-job guy, but they're all NFL, and therefore my life all makes more sense, and I have free time. And the reason I brought up golf was that was going to be kind of my schedule free time thing, so that I stopped working 80 hours a week, would be every Thursday, no matter what, I'm going to play golf in the morning, is what I said to myself back then. And so now I'm probably more than it, but I wanted to get to like 1 round per week for a year and see if I could actually learn this dumb game. And believe it or not, playing golf actually makes you better at golf. And you can find me every Thursday and probably now every Monday, puttering around at the crack of dawn at a golf course. So that was how I actually had to schedule free time and get down from 5 jobs to 3. But at no point do I ever feel like I have any regrets about what I do. I mean, I love what I do. So I when people hear 3 jobs or 5 jobs, they're like, "You're a psychopath." And in reality, there's nothing more fun to me than realizing I'm changing because Winnipeg and the Stars are about to go tonight. I love that stuff. So I love helping Troy get ready for Eagles Cowboys. I love the Stars. Heck, I would enjoy when the LA Galaxy were in town for the FC Dallas, because this is the toy department of life, and I'm very lucky. So, hashtag blessed, Brad.
For sure, Bob. Well, again, I wanted to say, I see that you're how close? What were your scores this week? You said you're trying to break 80.
This week 84, and we regressed to a 90. We had a rough morning at a course I had never played before, which was actually great fun. Rockwood in Fort Worth. It's
I am a Fort Worth guy, so
value. Okay.
Yeah, I'm a Fort Worth guy, so that's kind of. But the funny part is the green fees have just some spots it's kind of stayed steady. But I remember probably last year in the fall, I was able to get on a golf course for $12 over here, and I know. But I would have to go at like 11 o'clock, and it would be really hot. But I was like, well, I still get to play for $11 or $12.
That's crazy. No, you know what? It's such a great sport, man.
It really is. I wish I got to play more, but yeah.
Yeah, and I tried. This is gonna sound funny. I did try a cheap country club because country clubs aren't doing well in this economy. So you can actually find a couple that have like a zero initiation fee, and then you just pay the monthly dues, and the monthly dues were at least worth me seeing if I would like it. But the one I joined was one that's every hole has 20 houses on it. And that just didn't feel like you were out in the country with animals. And that's why I love Grapevine. It's 27 holes. You'll never see a house, but you will see deer and snakes and birds and rabbits and everything. And so if you're out there like I am, and you're playing usually completely by yourself, and you might have the musers on the speaker, but you might not, and you're just listening to the birds and the breeze, and it's not that hot, and it's the dew, and it does feel like you're checking out from life, and it's wonderful.
Well, and top of that, my dad had retired, and he started getting into golf, and then I go, hey, can I go golfing with you? And then it's kind of started a little bit of a bonding thing that we were doing. So
that's great.
Yeah, so there are some other pluses to it. Okay, we're about to end here. I'm going to end on the most controversial, but this week everyone really went in on you, and I'm not sure exactly that was fair. And I was also wow, Bob, do you really want to get into this? It was in my head.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know if you really want to jump into this field, because I will say, I might get into a 3-minute long question here, but my fandom was quite big in sports, and then I kind of took a left turn. I don't want to say left, but into, you know what? I'll keep touch into sports, but what I really want to do is get in more into, I like to call it, I don't like to call it politics. I actually like to call it philosophy, and getting into what's moral, what's right, and what's, and some of it's not so much like policy or like this guy's bad and this guy's good. It's more or less what is the right thing to do in society and doing those type of things. I hate to call it politics, because I don't feel like I really get into politics per se. It's just more or less what you think is the right thing to do in the world. And you went in really, I didn't, it started, I want to say like last Saturday or Friday. I can't remember which day you were,
Friday.
You had your friend who was in the police. He gave you some
that was Sunday.
Gave you some info, and everyone kind of went hard on you on that side. I'm like, well, Bob, here we go. And I would like to say I don't really have too many opinions on I do have opinions on everything that's going on, but I don't feel like that's really important. The only thing I could say is about it being so much, you say that it's politics. I don't find it to be politics, and I understood what you were saying this week, and I actually found it to be like, as far as quote unquote politics, I don't feel like you and me are actually really in line, which is fine. It's not so much a big deal. It's not and it's not a huge deal, but I did like the way you were saying that, whatever your religion is or whatever you believed in, it's not, it really doesn't allow you to, okay, I'm now into this party, or I have to affiliate with myself with this side.
Yeah.
I feel like that was pretty, I can't think of the word right now, but I feel like that was pretty spot on that. But and what I'm trying to get to is, though, whenever you get into these realms, I would like to compare it to Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan, I believe, since he was a young child, was actually into martial arts, and he knows. I know there are people that know martial arts more than Joe Rogan, but if you could put a bar of expert, you would put Joe Rogan as the bar for someone that knows what they're talking about when it comes to martial arts and MMA. Yeah. And then you have someone like Stephen A. Smith, who comes in and he will spout off, well, he gave up, blah, blah, blah. And Joe Rogan's sitting there going, you just jumped in here, and I've been doing this for well over 40 years, and you just kind of jump in. So I'm not saying that what you did was bad, because I don't think it was. But it's such a minefield going into these things, and I go, and again, I'm saying I'm not agreeing with you, but I'm not disagreeing with you, if that makes sense.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
So let me
Was that a long question? That was good enough for me. Yeah.
You did great. No, look. First of all, I want to say that I don't regret boldness, but it was probably the most boldness I've ever exhibited on the ticket, because I've been very mindful from the day I got hired here that I do have a religious background, but I wasn't hired for that. And I think it's generally annoying when people, try to push a personal agenda for a job that didn't want it, At the same time, I've also grown over the years that I don't like to be painted with the brush of the guy who went to Liberty, because if all you hear is a guy went to Liberty, you have so many thoughts about him before you've ever heard him open his mouth. And, honestly, that's what we deal with as a society, is that, oh, you're a Republican. Oh, you're a black man. Oh, you're this. Oh, you're that. I've already put you in this box. And I just think that's so freaking unhealthy for all of us as humans, is to, I know it takes a lot of time to meet people and to judge them on the content of their character and not the color of their skin or however you want to say it. But I'm not that guy, and I refuse to join others who are, and so that to me, and this week has been odd for sure, because I feel like I'm often an advocate for the police, because I come from a family with seriously double-digit police officers in my family. I can be at a cookout, and there will actually be 10 there. Now, that would require perfect attendance, but that's a crazy number for most families.
Yeah.
But I also come from a background where I'm the only person in my household who doesn't have brown eyes, and I'm definitely as white as it gets, but my family is incredibly multicultural, and we really have a heart for the Spanish-speaking community, and obviously I've had a lifelong empathy for the African American community. Just whether it was me getting into sports early, or me learning about Chuck D when I was 14, or just whatever. Just the plight of America was really interesting to me. Why are inner cities like they are? And so I'm not an expert, but it is a field of interest. And so with all that in mind, I have never been political on the air before these last 10 days. And I would argue I'm not actually being very political now.
Exactly. That's I kind of was getting to. Yeah.
But
I don't think you
I'm speaking for me, and I'm challenging others like me to try to break the cycle of putting everyone else in a box and feeling like the meaning of life is screaming at the people on the other side on why can't they ever do anything right, and why can't they fix what's broken, and why is it always their fault? I just think that's counterproductive. And so as I've gotten older, and as I've seen a little bit of the world, and as I've tried to ask myself tough questions about what I believe, why I believe it, how I was raised, how much of that I think is healthy, how much of that I think is unhealthy, just all those internal questions as somebody goes from 20 years old to 50 years old, I guess. I've arrived at this thing where my politics, I want to be in line with the message of Jesus. That's all. Jesus is love. Jesus very clearly had a heart for the poor, had a heart for orphans, had a heart for widows, had a heart for the cultures that were not as popular as the others. He taught a message of love. He taught a message of forgiveness. He taught a message of empathy and compassion. Nowhere in there did anyone hear the term white guilt. Nowhere in there did I use the term snowflake or SJW or any of this stuff. I just think those are all terms that are inflammatory, insulting, and used to basically minimize the message out there. And so I realize, as somebody who believes strongly in Jesus, puts me on one side of the aisle, but B, someone who thinks Jesus's message has been overrun by other things that religion seems to value more, like winning, like Supreme Court justices, like one issue voting over abortion, like all these things. I feel like a lot of these things do at times cloud what Jesus was all about. Not that, someone asked me this week, well, what do you think Jesus thinks about abortion? Oh, I know what he thinks about abortion. But I also know that he taught that sin is sin. And therefore to hold that one up as the be all end all, and to then allow 10 other very important issues to Jesus slide by in the name of this one, I think that's probably missing the boat at times as well. So I realize when I say these things that I'm saying to you right now, I have now probably alienated both sides of the aisle, because the side of the aisle that kind of agrees with me is very uncomfortable with using Jesus as your motivation.
Yeah.
because the Jesus people they know are usually screaming at them from the other side of the aisle. So I am perhaps a man without a political party,
yeah,
and a man who has both sides at times upset with me. And you know what? That's okay. That's okay. That's fine. I feel like I have to answer to him. And I feel like if I'm going to say I want him to govern my path and help me make my decisions, including how I want my kids to see the world, if the worst thing I ever did is to teach my kids to try to love everybody and try to help anybody who needs help, and yes, that might mean we have to consider the idea of universal health care for everybody that's in poverty. And it might mean we don't think it's cool to separate parents from babies at the border just because they did not get approved for immigration. Or the person right down our street who we are more than happy if we can get them to install our bathroom linoleum at a cheaper price. But we also know that they might not be legal, and that so they're forced. We might have to send them back, and so all these very complicated things that I think get complicated when we decide that our faith is actually our politics. So my challenge to everyone this week, and I realize it was difficult, and it probably did not help my popularity, and it probably did not help my
trying to build that 3 to 7, yeah.
but at the same time,
I think you did, yeah.
At the same time, I can sleep. I feel good about using your platform to try to challenge people to say, what if we try a different route, especially if people that are Bible believers, what if we actually apply the true message of Jesus as opposed to the true message of people that claim they love Jesus, and now they're going to use that prop to try to beat somebody else at the game of politics. So it's not really a political message. It's a life view that I have, and I realize it wasn't a popular one, and it may be nonsensical to many, but that's okay. It's mine, and I promise I'm not going to be doing this every week. And that might be the only week it ever happens.
Yeah.
But I realize that people who were offended on both sides may hold that against me forever. That's okay. And so I guess that's where we are. And I really hope we can get back to sports really soon, because it's exhausting, and I don't like upsetting people. But in the words of Bono, did I bug you? I didn't mean to bug you. It's just, but it's important. And sometimes we gotta, leave the toy department and worry about the caliber of our schools and the caliber of our healthcare and the caliber of everything, and how it affects non-white people, because America's been very good to white people. Like, would it kill us to offer empathy? Again, not guilt. You didn't do it. That's fine. But what if we try to make sure that everyone's on equal footing moving forward? That's all.
Well, and we're gonna wrap up here real soon here, but I just to push back a tiny bit,
Sure.
But just because I'm not saying, I don't know who my listeners are of any type, but I think they would be like, well, why didn't you push back a little bit on Pop there? But to push back is to go, I don't think either side has, I'm not saying that there's not people with malice in their heart, but I think because you disagree with someone doesn't necessarily give it off of that, well, they're just hateful people and they're awful and they're irredeemable, and I don't think I should be able to talk to them. Well,
I agree.
I think there are people who disagree on your on universal health care or having maybe an open borders or anything like that. It's not so much
not open borders.
No, I know. I know. I'm just,
but also not making every immigrant into a gang.
Exactly. But I feel like there are some people who are, it's not so much they have hate in their heart, is that they have a different, it's just a different mindset, and it doesn't make them a hateful person. And this is where I don't enjoy the current politics climate at right now, because I've seen other people get completely kind of lambasted and almost thrown off of the face of the earth, going, well, they're just awful people, and I'm like, well, I don't fully agree with that person, but there's actually things that I agree with a lot of people. I'm talking about people that, I just don't even have. You could look on the list and I may have like a couple of checkpoints of agreement with them, and I still I agree with you on that thing. I disagree with you on a whole bunch of things. It doesn't mean that I think that you're an awful person, but whenever some people kind of feel attacked and go, okay, you just basically told me I'm not even a worthy human being. And I think it almost breeds, I'm not saying it almost breeds the worst part of it, to where.
Do you hear any of that from my message?
No. I'm
okay,
just,
good.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying some people can, I apologize.
Absolutely.
I didn't want to, but you can, this is kind of beyond you, Bob, but I think it's some people who will go out, you can have your message, Bob, but then there's other ones who are going, well, they believe in this. And I can kind of go back to a former guest here, CJ Nikowski.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of go with that one where I don't really know if I agree with anything with CJ. I don't even know if I really even like him as an announcer, but that's neither here nor there. But he almost got, literally, people were calling for his job because he liked a tweet, and that's it. And maybe he agreed with him or maybe didn't agree with him, but people were ready to throw him off the edge of the cliff and go, yeah, I don't want this guy being our announcer. And I'm going, well, hold on. Like, there's so much more nuanced things out there where, oh, you're now this side and you're on this side, so you're irredeemable. I just don't believe that anybody is truly irredeemable. I think there is a level of knowledge that needs to be had on each side. Like, you need to know. It's the debate. It's almost the debate theory where you need to know how to debate on that other side to know where they're coming from.
look, people are angry, man, and there's a mob mentality on both sides of that fence for sure. We saw with the Drew Brees thing that people on both sides, want to basically lambaste, the same dude on one day apart because he joined the other team or whatever, and it's unhealthy.
And just look at that one.
Yeah, I mean, CJ is an interesting thing because I think it would be disingenuous to say I consider him a friend, because I think a friend at some point probably has to share a meal. But he's been on our show, and I've talked to him off the air about things that don't matter, like baseball, and I've found him to be pleasant. I also think that, yes, he has angered some people, and I think at some point it would be great if he could sort of explain that maybe that's I don't know. I don't know, because
I was just using it as an example. I mean, it doesn't.
Yeah, no, I know, but even I probably am responsible to say something on that front. But again, I'm not going to disavow anybody who says they voted for Trump just because they did vote for Trump. I would never vote for Donald Trump. I would vote Republican, and I have voted Republican. I would never vote for Donald Trump. And I said that in 2016 privately, and now I'll say it in 2020 publicly, because I don't believe that Jesus I believe in would have anything to do with his message. I just don't.
Yeah.
And frankly, those who do, and I definitely know many of them intimately because my parents, my brother, so look, I've made family members angry because of that stance. And that's real right now in America. There's a lot of families that are seemingly torn apart over this administration because they're Republican families. They have been for generations because they believe that reflects the views of Jesus overall. But I always say, man, if we're just going to rubber stamp whatever a political party puts out there, then that's the church we're going to. We're not going to the Church of Jesus. We're going to the Church of the Republican Party. And I just think those are two different things. And it gets very, very dangerous to just hand the steering wheel to people that might be non-believers. And yes, if you call 2 Corinthians 2 Corinthians, and if you're asked to name your favorite Bible verse and you don't have an answer, then I'm going to question if you're a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Right. I completely, I completely agree with that. But
it's
go ahead.
So anyway, it's too, I would just want to say this. I try really hard to not be that guy. I try really hard to not categorize people and judge people. I also want to be clear here, because I've had some people get on me for this, and not directly, but they'll jump on Reddit or they'll jump on Twitter and say, that Bob suddenly thinks he's speaking for Jesus. No, I really don't. I realize that part of being a human is I might be getting this wrong. I think that's important.
That's a very big thing. Yeah.
Yeah, in the year 2020, here's what Jesus would think about these 10 hot-button issues. Man, I don't know if I can honestly say that, but I can at least consider the question and at least give you my best guess on what a person who lived his life with compassion for those less fortunate and felt this is important, and he did not seemingly get too terribly involved in politics. Now, he had thoughts about rendering unto Caesar that which is Caesar. Look, the Bible is not a hard book to get a hold of. If people really want to know what he thinks about things and apply them, his message about poor, his message about being judgmental, there's a lot in there. And I realize a big part of my audience doesn't even believe he existed, or doesn't even believe, he had any sort of deity to him. And to that part of the audience, please bear with me, because I wasn't really talking to you this week, and I will go back into my sports cage very, very soon. But I was talking to fellow Christians who I think a certain way because they've been programmed to think a certain way. And my only message to them is not that I'm running for office, not that I have all the right answers, but please, please, please don't forget the person we follow is Jesus, not Donald Trump.
Yeah, yeah.
And don't conflate the two any further and just give it some personal thought. That's all I wanted to do. And in doing so, I guess I gave legs to Antifa, and I guess I had someone thinking I wanted to cut funding to the police force, which is ridiculous because, again, 10 cops are in my family. I absolutely love what they all represent, but clearly there are problems there as well. There are problems in the black community. There are problems in the police department. There are problems in the white community. There are problems in the Republican Party. There are problems in the Democratic Party. I'm not here to say anybody is perfect except the reason for my faith. And beyond that, I will attempt to stick to sports. Yeah,
well, and I wanted to just end on this part where, again, I'm not really pushing back, but
sure.
It's as far as you're wondering why, and again, I'm gonna tell you right now, I do not vote in the Republican Party. I don't vote in the Democratic Party. I actually voted for Ron Paul for for president during that thing because I literally could. I was like, I'm not pulling for either one. But
yeah.
But if you don't understand why someone has that thought process, then you really need to go dig a little deeper because you actually tweeted about Donald Trump going out there and holding the Bible. And I can understand that. I'm actually not a truly religious person, but I'm actually have gained a lot more respect for people that are religious because I guess seeing what nihilism can do is actually a lot worse than what any religious person can ever do. But he was holding the Bible up, and a lot of people were very offended. And I can actually understand why someone would be very offended. And I think probably you were offended.
Sure.
But
I was.
Yeah, and I know. But the actual there's a Scott Adams. He actually I don't know if you ever heard of him. He writes for he did Dilbert. I know I'm some cartoonist, but he actually has a fun theory about the two movies theory, which is basically if someone watches two people watch a movie and two people come up with completely different diametrically opposite opinions of the movie. And some people saw that and they were wildly offended that he was doing this basically photo op, and this is where I think this is actually very important, is knowing what the other side is thinking as well. And where Donald Trump was actually so the night before, I don't know if even people knew why he was even doing this. But the night before, they had actually lit a fire into this very famous church, which actually Abraham Lincoln would actually go across the street and pray in this church. It's a very, very old church. And they tried to burn it down, which I think is just blasphemy. It's just an awful thing to do. And Donald Trump, whether you think I don't really care if he believes in God or not. I would actually your assumption that he maybe doesn't even believe in God is probably warranted. But what he did in that instance, and then just the two movie theory. I believe in what you I understand the way you think about that. But then there was other people who were Catholic, who were very religious, and saw what those awful people, I'm going to say just awful people, did. They tried to burn a church down, which is awful. And he went across the street and held up a Bible and says, and you look like it was a photo op, and he was going, "I'm with you. Okay, I'm with you, and I think this was awful, and I've got your back." And I know that sounds, you're like, what the hell are you talking about, bro? No, I'm just telling you what those other people thought, and they saw from that moment. And it wasn't so much, that it was just a crazy photo op. Well, no, he was trying to tell people on his side, I've got your back, and there is someone here with you. And so I would like some people to take that into account, understand why people are burning buildings down and rioting in the street and protesting, but also realize why some people are going,
Yeah.
this is
No, no,
lawlessness.
no.
And then,
Yeah,
I just wanted to end with
and
that to where.
well, no, look. I think that's a good example of I probably should sit some tweets out, but I will also say
No, I never said that. I never said that. I think you should.
no,
absolutely
but maybe
mind. Yeah.
maybe on that one a little more nuance would have helped. But I would also say
It's emotional. That's an emotional thing to me.
This is a many years thing, including my school. Liberty University, Jerry Falwell Jr. and Trump, and the importance to his administration and his cause and the liberty cause and everything that it's important that we vote for the cause of faith. And usually that does go quickly to abortion. Unfortunately, often it seems to go with gun rights and things of that nature. And a lot of times it's to find a man who will install the proper Supreme Court justices. So I grew up in this world, so I know I know how important symbolism is, and I know how important playing the game is, and I feel like this particular candidate has troubled me so much because it does feel at times like you are willing to vote for anybody who changes their lifelong tune on things to get an immediate goal, and it feels like a hustle. But again, if I'm going to tell you for an hour that Jesus's message is important to me, and it's one of love and forgiveness and empathy and all these things, then me doing that on Twitter is the opposite of that, and I can't be of two minds. I need to sit those out. I really do, and I'm not. I know you weren't looking for that response from me, but I think it's important for me to reflect on, if you're going to try to promote this message that is not well received, then don't screw it up an hour later because you've had it up to here with what you think is a fraudulent, wolf in sheep's clothing sort of thing.
Yeah.
So just sit on that, and again, controlling your desire to win or to be right or to dunk on somebody, as it were, is probably inappropriate for me, and I should do better. I just have so many people in my life that I really want to challenge, and many of them have my same last name, and we've gone through a lot together, and now I'm, to them, espousing liberal drivel. I was accused of that by a family member.
I think woke ago. Bob was trending on Twitter, probably.
Yeah, and so me and my liberal drivel, just because I want to make sure that we consider all things and not just one political issue. But anyway, I really appreciate this conversation.
Absolutely, Bob. I really do. Yeah.
I hope some people are touched by it on some level. And please know, in the end, to anyone involved, I don't even call this politics, man. I just call this life. I just call this decency, and I don't, I'm not crazy about any of the candidates, and I'm not trying to affect anybody else. I'm just saying it's really easy to say WWJD, but I want to. I want to try to live it, I want to try to live the question of how would Jesus do this? Not how would a politician who's going to hold up a Bible do this, but how would Jesus actually do this? And I think if I were to ask that question more often, then I would do fewer foolish things. So that's my challenge to those of us who believe that to be a real story, and a real man, and a real deity. So anyway.
Well, Bob, I really graciously appreciate you coming on. I know this is
absolutely.
This is just I can't imagine. I was waiting for that. I've got 20 million different things that I would rather do than hop on with you. But I greatly appreciate it, Bob.
My pleasure, man.
Yeah, and I'll. Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of blown away that we got to do this morning. I really appreciate it. So.
It is my pleasure. Let's do it again sometime, and let me know, and I'll push it out to the audience.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Bob. Have a good one.
Okay, brother.
See ya.
Bye.